Hello and welcome to the Tips with Tony podcast. I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy one bite at a time. I am so excited about this next guest. I mean, I feel like I say that a lot, but like really excited because it's actually a previous client of mine. So I always love when clients who I've either worked with currently or have graduated come back and are able to kind of share their experience. So that is what today is all about. Joshua is incredible. He just finished his 6 months about maybe a month ago. So if you don't know, working with me, it's a 6-month minimum requirement because we're working on habit stacking and behavior modification and really committing to a healthy lifestyle. So we have to unlearn a lot of old patterns and behaviors, relearn some really great ones, and then make sure they're there to stay. So Josh is here to kind of share with us what he's learned and if those habits that we've developed are sticking with him after graduating from the program without having that high level of accountability that he had once had within the program. So anyways, I'm super excited. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm a little bit nervous. I've never talked to this many people at the same time, but I'm a teacher, so I'm used to just going with it. And yeah, I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you here. Before we get into some of the questions that I have for you, if you want to maybe just share a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from, you already said what you do for work, anything that you think that maybe some of the listeners could connect to.
Yeah, totally. So, I am a teacher, and so I teach high school and English and drama, and I am currently in Phoenix, Arizona. I was born in Colorado, so I lived some of my life there. And yeah, I mean, I am a really creative person. I work with the theater arts program, so I'm a director, live a really busy lifestyle. Yeah, I mean, those are kind of the highlights. I'm sure you'll learn a lot more about me as the conversation continues. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're a born and natural leader because even though you teach, I know that you also help with other teachers, and then you also do drama club and so many great stuff. So
yeah, I do, definitely. Thank you.
You have a lot of responsibilities, but you still made health and wellness your priority. So I'm excited to talk about that. Awesome. All right. So let's start with the first question I have for you. So what was the main challenge or obstacle that you were looking to solve before working with me?
Oh yeah. Okay. That's a good question. I've always had a really complex relationship with weight and food, and especially I've known for a really long time that I've struggled with emotional eating, kind of using food as a comfort, and that sometimes leads to binges depending on just where I'm at. Even since early childhood, my mom died when I was really young, and I know through therapy and a lot of work that's kind of where some of those things started. So there's times where food is a comfort, and then there's times where food is this really bad ex-boyfriend that I want absolutely nothing to do with. And yet I can't have absolutely nothing to do with food, right? I can't have that abstinence mindset when it comes to food. And so I knew that I had to try to tackle it in a different way. I've tried different kind of weight loss programs and diets, and I was listening to one of your podcasts that circled through random recommendations, and I was like, oh man, okay, she really seems to be talking a lot about mindset, and I feel like that's kind of what I really need. And I really just kind of hit a point in the middle of the pandemic where I knew that this obstacle of emotional eating and binge eating wasn't going to go away. And I felt like I was ready to try to take on that challenge in a new way. I've done it by over exercising. I've done it for other people, for relationships, but I've never really done it for me. And I knew that I just had this gut feeling that I just had to do it. And so I scheduled the call before I could chicken out or anything like that. And then, yeah, that's yeah.
Well, so that was okay. So what a lot of people don't realize is that the application process alone, just putting in the application, is part of your transformation, because you had the gut feeling, you had this fear, all these things that you're like, I know this is what I need. I know this is what I need. But you know how many people ignore that or forget about it or don't do anything about it? A lot of people do know that all it takes is applying. So they're resistant to even do that first part. But because you did that, and then we got on a call, and oh my God, I loved talking to you on the phone. The very first call, I was like, oh my God, this this guy is somebody I need to work with. Like, it's just like, love your energy. So I knew it was going to be like a perfect fit. But yeah, just filling out the application, I think is like half the battle, honestly. It's kind of like showing up for the workout. Sometimes you don't want to do it, but just, you got to show up, and then you're like, oh yeah, why did I resist this for so long?
Well, and that's a really good point, because I feel like so often too, like what I have to overcome and what I think a lot of people have to overcome is that, like, is it bad enough yet to hire a
Mm,
nutritionist? Is it bad enough to yet to get help? You know, I'm not in
oof.
crisis. I'm not like dying. So like, I don't have to solve that problem. Right.
Mhm.
And getting out of your own way enough to go like, even if it's not bad, I'm worthy of investment is like
Mm,
such a huge step, and like the first
yeah.
step in a long process, like you said. Yeah.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. Why wait to get to rock bottom when we can like
Right.
fix it before it's like really, really bad, you know? Awesome. That's so great. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about what you were like, why you decided to hire me, because like what wasn't working on your own? Like what did you feel like was going to be different through working with a dietitian or coach versus like what you were trying to do on your own? What wasn't working about that?
Man, you know, I think the biggest thing that wasn't working, and I don't know if I consciously knew this at the time, but like kind of with hindsight, I think the biggest thing that wasn't working was just not having someone to like really logically and kind of like intentionally set goals that were manageable and kind of like
Mm,
working my way up to things, you know? So I would
mm-hmm.
have these like really long periods where I wouldn't care about what I was eating or how I was moving. And I would just kind of like go through these like emotional states where I wasn't thinking about it. But then I would have these really long states where it was almost like I was like restricting, or I was like, you know, not eating enough throughout the day and then binging at night and being
Mm-hmm.
really, really hungry. And so most days, ironically, I was like so self-conscious about my weight and how I looked that I was like under eating. And then that was leading to like some really, you know, terrible habits at home. And
Mm-hmm.
I knew that if I could get honest with someone one to one, and I could get honest with like the emotion that was behind that and felt like safe enough to talk about that, that I could have that accountability of not letting like one choice throw off a whole day or a whole month or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what I was in, was that spiral of like, I would, you know, log things in my fitness pal, which my calorie goal was not realistic. It was like 1600 calories and I'm like
Yeah.
a 200 pound, you know, yeah, like, man, like I need more calories than that. But you know, so I was going on these really big extremes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just swinging between the pendulum, and I needed someone that would help me like comfortably move through new habits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and I know a lot of people can relate to that. I think we all can get a little bit all or nothing, right? The perfectionism in us pops out. It's like, well, if I can't do it perfect, I'm not going to do it at all. And then I think get really bad. So you kind of like swing the other way. You're like, no, I have to be perfect. I have to fix it, right? And that we get so caught up in that. And so, oh, someone else had commented. One of my other clients, I posted something. I posted something about my like personally about how I invest in coaching because I believe in it so much. And I kind of just asked for like everyone's kind of takeaways of like what you've learned from coaching. And she made a really good point. She said, the coaching helps me to sift through like what goals actually matter.
Yeah.
Like, so like, yeah, there's a lot that you could do in the beginning, right? In the beginning, there's a lot to unlearn and to relearn, right? And so, but if I gave you, you know, drink more water, move your body more, sleep better, eat more veggies, include protein, like all the things, like, and you had to expect it to do that like overnight or in 1 week, like that's how different, that's not very different than like someone going on a very restrictive meal plan, like the all or nothing mindset. So I think that what you're expressing, it makes sense, like, right? It was just like kind of, yes, there's a lot that we need to work on, but like let's put in small tangible goals to help you do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think so many of our earlier conversations were me being like, so I'm thinking like these 5 things are the things that I'm going to change about my entire lifestyle this week. And you just like very delicately and kindly like walking me back to the like the 2 or 3 that would make the most impact and like would build that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think working with someone too, you know, uh, I had so much shame wrapped up in my body and in food and what I ate and didn't eat. And like, you know, I've listened to a lot of, you know, kind of like the work by like Brene Brown and all of that. And that's made a big impact on my life. And, you know, one of the things she says is that like shame can't survive when it's like spoken out loud. And so like having someone that I could get real with about that on a regular basis helped me shine a light on all of that stuff that like I was holding on to, that really I didn't need to feel shame about that. Like I was just trapped in that kind of cycle. You know, I had so many rules about food that I had learned that I had to unlearn. Yeah, because they weren't serving me.
Yeah, definitely not. And I will commend you. I do believe that I'm glad that you felt safe to open up to me, because you did share with me some very vulnerable moments. And I do believe that's why you've been able to grow the way that you grew, and, you know, really make a transformation. And when I say transformation, we're not talking about a body transformation, although, you know, weight loss happened, but that's not what it was, right? It was the mindset transformation. It was the view of food transformation. It was the view of your body transformation, regardless of what the scale says, right? So like, I do believe that it's because you opened up and were open to feedback that was able to be possible for you. So good job. All right. So what did we implement that was different than maybe anything you've ever done before? And when did you realize that?
So I think one of the things that I kind of immediately realized that was different before was that we were just taking such a different approach. So like I've done a lot of the like start with the food, and then if there's like energy left over, or start with the exercise and there's just any energy left over, deal with the emotion. And we like did the opposite, right? Like we were having discussions about like well-being and sleep and lifestyle and like what was working and what wasn't. So like pretty quickly, like even in our, you know, our discovery call, and then in our first session together, you know, we were talking about things like stress and sleep and getting enough water and how I felt about myself. And that right away was already just like a different angle that I had never approached it from before, because you always set your mindset on like the end goal, right? Like we're going to worry about the scale and then those things will come. And it's really like, no, you got to worry about like yourself, and then the scale will eventually follow, you know, and that right away was pretty powerful. And I think, and we kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but, you know, the other thing too was really just setting like small and like manageable changes. You know, it wasn't like, like in the past 2 or 3 weeks, you know, I've like hit my exercise goal and I've been like doing some sort of workout, whether that's like a walk or a dance routine or something like that every day, but I didn't start there.
Right.
You know, you helped me, you know, I had zero activity and I was like eating out every single night, if not 2 or 3 times a day, because, you know, the world had shut down and it was very different. And we slowly worked in those tiny habits. You know, at first it was just like, you know, 5 minutes of movement, or, you know, and a couple of times a week. And so like making those really kind of like manageable and small helped a lot. And it worked in my lifestyle, you know, like I was already like, I'm a teacher and I have a very specific, I don't have a lot of control over like my daily schedule. And you helped me figure out where did I have control and where could I leverage time to meal plan or grocery shop or get active. And that helped a lot. Like that was different than anything. It wasn't like a one size fits all, like do this program and you will succeed. It was like, what is your program?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that's what I pride myself in my program being individualized. So like there's already many basic concepts that I will work through, but it needs to be catered to your lifestyle. Otherwise, it's not going to last in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there were things about my lifestyle that we identified early on that I wanted to change, but then there were things too that I really didn't. You know, I still wanted to be invested in the arts program, and I still wanted to be invested in a lot of things. And so figuring out what worked within those things and leveraging those strategies helped a lot.
Totally. Yeah. What's the point of you following a nutrition plan if you can't do the things that you enjoy?
Exactly. And it's so like, it's just little things, you know, because it sounds like really big when you talk about like leveraging strategies, but it was little things like you helping me realize that like, if I'm going to be, at school from 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and I have a rehearsal after school and I'm usually starving by like 5, well, what if I brought my dinner to school? Like, I had never thought about that before. Like, I had never even considered, because like dinner is what happens when you get home and you cook for yourself. Like, that's what healthy people do, right? Putting that in air quotes if you're listening. Like, that's what healthy people do. And so I had all these rules, and I was like, well, no, but like, I can bring a meal and I can nourish myself, and then I can get home and feel really rested and well fed, and I can eat throughout the day rather than starve myself. And then no wonder I stop, go to a drive.
Right. Definitely. So proud of you. So proud. All right. So what was the outcome that we achieved together that you're the most proud of?
So I really thought that the outcome that we would achieve that I'd be most proud of would be like the appearance in the scale. Like today, I'm wearing a shirt that I haven't worn in many, many months because it didn't fit. And it feels like really good. And I feel like really confident.
And and this is not about like the weight loss or anything, but literally when you got on today, because I haven't seen you, which is so sad. Yeah. This is the sad part about graduating. I haven't seen you in like a month. And so when you got on the screen, I was like, you look happy. Like you look refreshed. You look not stressed. You look great. You look just, it's like a glow. It's special. So
yeah. And I am proud of that. I am proud of that accomplishment. But like, I had all of these like preconceived notions about like what success was, and when I would get to feel happy and like proud of myself, and like if I could just get to this point, like I'll love my body and then it'll be totally fine. Which of course is a much larger conversation. But what I think I'm most proud of is that, and it's not perfect, but like I have always had this complex relationship with my body, and some days I love it and some days I hate it. And now I can both love it and want to change things about my health and my lifestyle at the same time. And like, that was something that you just like dropped in there. I was kind of talking about and trying to put the words in, like in our last session together, you told me like, you can love your body and want to change it. And that just like blew my mind. And it's still occasionally that like phrase rattles around in my brain, and I have to like pause what I'm doing and go, oh, because that's really true. Like I want to have more energy, and I want to maybe look a little bit different and things like that, but I can do that and still love and nourish myself at the same time. And I don't have to like fit into like a lower size or look a certain way to be proud about who I am. And that's something that took like a lot of unlearning and is still going to be a lifelong journey. But I feel like I have that foundation now where, and I've mentioned this a couple times, like dance workouts. Okay. Like I never would have done a dance workout because I'd be so embarrassed that somehow society is going to see me in my living room and is going to make fun of me dancing because I can't dance very well. And look at there was all these stories of shame wrapped up in my head. And now it's like, I turn on, the little dance workout, and I'm doing it because I want to have fun and I want to move, and I get to do that just because I feel like it, not for anyone else. And then of course in that process, I burn like 400 calories and I like feel my abs hurting, and I'm like, and so I get the benefits of that, but like, I'm doing that because I love my body, not punishing my body with exercise and movement because I feel like I have to. And that's a big difference.
So different and so powerful. So powerful. I don't think I need to coach anyone anymore. I feel like I did my job. I feel like, all right, I'm good. I can die happy now. I left my place on this earth. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna keep coaching. But yeah, so awesome. So proud of you. I didn't tell you this. This isn't whatever. I'm just going to say it. I just recently actually recorded a podcast. It's actually going to come out. I think it's going to come out before your episode, but I gave you a shout out, and it was about creating your self-care menu.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
loved when you did that. And so you're
Yeah.
like definitely featured on that PS. But can you
Yes.
speak a little bit about your how you created, we always talk about self-care, and
Yeah.
we made a couple connections, and then you started creating like a self-care menus, and then you reviewed each day. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we, especially I feel like with the pandemic and everything going on, we are in this, I was really in this cycle of knowing that I needed to take care of myself, but not really like knowing how. And I think in the same way that we have all these rules about like certain foods being good or bad, or certain like ways of doing exercise being good or bad. And certainly there's like a health factor, right? So that's something. But I had all of these like notions about like what was self-care and what counted, and that it had to look a certain way. And so I was really limited. And so, we were in our conversations, I realized there were lots of things that I could do to practice self-care, and that it could be different every time. And one of the things that we had kind of identified in our conversations was that time going home from a very emotionally demanding and intense job and going home was really hard for me. I had a lot of emotions. I had a lot of things that I had to process. And so it started as us talking about like, well, what can I do in that gap, in that transition time, to take care of myself, to process things. And so then it was like, oh, well, I can do some yoga, or I can, read a good book, or I can listen to music, or I can, cook myself a nutritious meal, and just kind of talking through all of those things that I can do to show myself some love. Um, and I think, one of the things that I've learned is it's all about the intention, like setting the intention to like care for myself by doing yoga, or by moving, or by calling a friend and talking to them, makes all the difference in the world
Mhm.
when it comes to like the impact that you feel afterwards. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So,
Totally.
and of course I love homework. So I like made like a little menu, and then I like printed it out and I sent it to you. And
It was so cute.
yeah, yeah. And it's a good visual reminder. Like I have one on my desk,
Hmm.
um, and I have one at home. And so I'll see that and I'll go, oh yeah, okay. So I have lots of ways to like care for myself.
Yeah, and you can do something one, and you're not doing everything on that list in a day.
Right.
You're picking
No.
like maybe one,
Yeah.
maybe two a day, but rather than most people I think most people think of self-care as like getting a massage or getting a manicure, and like you do that like every 3 weeks or so. Like, it's not like, but really what we're talking about self-care, it's like, what's one thing I can do for myself today?
Yeah. Exactly. Like right now. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So I always ask this question when I'm interviewing a previous client. And it's all about like right before you were about to join the program, was there any skepticism? Because we do live in a world of diet culture where you don't
Yep.
know like who to believe. And so it's totally okay. I just want to hear from you kind of, was there any skepticism going into this process?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I'm just like I was so skeptical. And I think it was like one of those moments of like, this sounds too good to be true. I remember especially feeling that like even just after reading the application, and how it was like really focused on like me and how I felt and like my lifestyle. I was like, this just feels too real. This feels too like not diety. And so that felt really weird to me. And I think when you're so used to like looking at the numbers first and the person second, this like person first approach felt really weird to me.
Mm,
And I think more than anything, I was skeptical because it was like this idea of like, well, even if this is real, and I had heard testimonials like it has to be real. Like, yeah. It felt like it's something that's gonna like work for everybody, but it like I'm way too like broken and weird for it to work for me.
mm,
Um, and I think some of that skepticism too came from, is this the right time? Is this the right time to dive into this? Do I really have that energy to like make all this change that I think I need? And I'm just really, really glad that there was this like gut instinct that told me that like that investing in myself was worth it. And
mm.
that in fact, even in the midst of all of this crazy and changing routines and kind of a chaotic world we're living in, that made it even more essential that I kind of like moved through what I realized was masquerading as skepticism and was really just fear of like
Mm,
failure and not being worthy enough, that I needed to like move through that because it was going to be worth it in the end.
yeah.
Um, and it absolutely was. I mean, I don't regret any of it, even though it was sometimes really, really hard and
Yeah.
vulnerable and real,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
but I don't regret it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think it's important for people to hear that sometimes it is scary to, invest in yourself. And I think we always get in our own way and saying it's not the right time. But like, how long have you said it's not the right time? And how long have you
Yeah.
hid behind, a rigid meal plan or like a flimsy yo-yo diet or like something that really deep down that's not going to be it. And I'm sorry if you got tricked into thinking that it was the thing that was going to help you long term, but I think a lot of times we're being honest and real. We're really, those things really just like put a band aid. They're not really getting to the root of the issue. And so if you're really trying to get to the root, there really is never a good time because it's always going to feel uncomfortable. It's always going to, you are always going to have, that's life. We have a lot of things. We have lots of things and lots of responsibilities. So doing a program that's going to help with your lifestyle and it's going to meet you where you're at rather than feeling like you need to like fit it into a certain box and then live your life, like that's not the program for you, you know? So thank you for sharing that. That was great. That was great. All right. So just wrapping up here, what would you say to someone who is interested in joining my program? Maybe they're a little bit on the fence. What would you say to them?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I would say is just don't be afraid to get honest, both with, yourself and your needs right now, but also just like throughout kind of like working on the program. I think in the beginning I was really, really worried that I would be judged, and I never felt judged, like not once.
Oh,
Even on my worst days when I was like, oh my gosh, so I just like ate an entire pizza and I feel like I've forgotten everything that I've learned. I never felt judged or less than. And that kind of taught me that I could be vulnerable and I could share like the really, really good days and the victories, and then also the really, really crappy days and the feelings that are associated with that. Um, and part of that was that unlearning that mindset, that they're like, even if there's like a bad moment or a binge, I'm not like free of binging, or emotional eating, but like that there's always more choices to come. There's more days, more hours where I can make a difference and like, and change. And so if you're interested, or if you're sitting there on the fence and you're just like, I don't know if I can do this, or I don't know if I am worth the investment, like I would just say to someone, like, you are absolutely worth it. And being scared and being a little bit nervous is probably a sign that it's like really needed and really necessary, because like growth is uncomfortable, but it's when we're uncomfortable that we like end up growing the most.
mhm.
And so I would just really encourage anyone to like reach out and be honest. There's no shame, and because it's gonna be worth it. Yeah.
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 Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to coach you. I know I've said that before, but I really, really enjoyed working with you. Is there any last minute kind of comments, questions, or anything that you want to maybe share with the listeners?
Um, I don't know. I think just I think I would just circle back to like really emphasizing that I feel like I am in no way perfect, but I've learned a lot of strategies that are sticking with me that like really work with my lifestyle.
Hmm.
And that's made all the difference in the world in terms of how I move throughout my day, and how I feel about myself. Because I'm now no longer trying to fit myself into this like box that like society and our culture like tells me I have to fit in. And I'm kind of creating my own little box that I like feel comfortable in. um, and that's like a really, really like beautiful thing. And so I think that's just such a good part about this program and what I've learned. So yeah.
Awesome. Ah, so beautiful. So beautiful. Ah, thank you again. Guys, if you're interested in joining my program, definitely go to www.tipswithtony.com/coaching. You can watch the video about my program. You can fill out the application below it. We'll get on a discovery call. At this point, right now, I don't have any spots left. However, I just hired 2 dietitians. I'm super excited. So I'm going to be teaching them my ways, and you would get assigned to one dietitian, and you basically have the 2 of us helping you through your journey. And hopefully you could be on the other side of 6 months from now, where Josh is, having that food freedom, that body confidence, this just like genuine understanding that we're always going to be a beautiful work in progress and that we're worth it now. We don't need to wait for it. If you want your permission, here's your permission slip. Okay. So go to www.tipswithtony.com/coaching to watch the video and apply. And if you have questions for Joshua, where can people find you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Twitter's honestly probably the best place. So _ Joshua Garrett, 2 R's, 2 T's. That's the place where I'm most kind of like public and visible. And yeah, feel free to.
Awesome. Okay, good. I'll put that in the show notes then if people want to get in touch with you there. Thank you guys for listening. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, I am going to tell you to hit that subscribe button so you get notified when a new episode comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If this inspired you in any way, if you enjoyed this episode, either screenshot it, share it on your story, tag me at tips_with_Tony, or send it to a friend or a family member that you care about. I know I was like just re-inspired by this conversation, so I know that you're going to feel inspired. So let us know how it made you feel, what your thoughts are. If you have any questions for me before applying, feel free to message me on Instagram or email me tipswithtony@gmail.com. I'm super responsive. All right. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm Tony Marinucci, your registered dietitian, helping you get healthy 1 bite at a time.